Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Trendy John from Simpler Trading. We're going to go over our neutral strategy for this week. Overall, we know that, the levels worked really, really well. We've been using these same levels, which is really special because a lot of times I change the blueprint week to week, but we've been using this for 2 weeks now. And that just goes to show you just how sideways the market is, and we can see that. Now, the difference, QQQ made lower highs this week. Um, again, I don't like that. We made new lower lows on the smaller time frame. We did come into the demand zone on the Qs, and that's great. I want to see us be able to pick up and take out a new pivot, so above 481 on the Qs. But my big thing here is, do I really even want to change this blueprint again? And this is going to be the first time ever that I can use the same levels 3 weeks in a row. That again just goes to show you how sideways it is. Okay. Now, I'm sitting here debating whether or not I want to keep these levels. And look at this level up here is 568.70. Well, if you watched the broad market analysis, then you know that the quarterly, my next target, as far as my notes are concerned, here, right there, is 568 is target, and short-term support is 559. So those are my two major levels. So I'm going to come in here on the SPY. Where's 559? This is 558. It's somewhere in here. Sorry, somewhere in here. So I like these levels. And then my level up here is great. Now, what I don't like, I get a little OCD, is that we have this line here. And I would prefer to maybe change up a few things here. I think I'm just going to keep this the same. It just makes sense to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over this, all right? Because far as we are concerned, this was a great buy. If you didn't realize this this past week, I want to tell you a key couple reasons why. Well, the normal strategy is once we go above, whether you want to wait for it to close or you don't want to, you could go long here, and this worked out to hit T1 and T2 again. But the reason why, when it came down to neutral, it worked is because if you look left, we have this nice demand area here. We have this is actually like a quadruple inside and up here. And price worked really well. It came in here once, it came in twice, and it worked really, really well. All right. So going forward, what I'd like to say is this 568, which is only $5 away, is my target for this week. If we continue to move above there, then we need to find, new targets. So I'm going to take you to a higher time frame. Just make sure we can see where the high was. Okay. So we're basically almost there to the high. All right. And I want to be able to give you some other targets just in case we take out 568 on this short week. What I'm going to do is take this Fibonacci extension and I'm going to use the low of 2 weeks ago. And I'm going to take it to the high, and then I'm going to double click, and that's going to give me some new Fibonacci's. Okay, so going across here, I'm going to take it up to the 50. That's going to give us 571. So I'm going to add a new target, 568 to 570. Let's make it 572. Okay, right there. So we're going to add that one. And going forward, I want to talk about some important levels on this chart. So if for some reason we roll over, most likely the 9 EMA on the weekly is going to be confluent with 551. Now, and understand how EMAs work, you got to understand where this candle is going to move. So this would, for me, for the confluence to come in order for the confluence to come in, prices need to move up a little bit, and this EMA is going to stretch up a little bit. I want you to check throughout the week and see, on those highs, will the 9 EMA come into the neutral? If it does, then we have the weekly 9 EMA support that is now confluent with the neutral. Okay, so that is great. Down here, these two zones have not been touched. Remember, the Qs have led the way to the downside and hit the demand level, whereas this has not. It has not come back to these levels. So those are obviously an area, if we were to get a significant pullback, that I would want you to focus on for buyers to come in. Now, when I look at the daily, this looks like a classic base being built for all-time highs. It really does. And if you remember in the broad market analysis, I talked about the probabilities of us seeing a new high now that we're above the 88.7 of the high. Okay. This looks classic. I don't really like when things look classic because then, I feel like the markets are going to take advantage of traders. So just, again, be careful until we can get over the highs and over that 4 hour supply that I talked about on the ES futures. I feel like, you should be a little cautious here, but targets going forward 564, 568, 572 going into this week. And again, let's go over to the 4 hour. Actually, I'm going to keep it on the day. It looks a little bit cleaner. I like this. We know that the weekly is stretching up, most likely going to be support of the neutral. You can see that the daily 9 EMA is working really, really well. Um, the bottom of this cloud, again, if the weekly pushes up, most likely this EMA is also going to curl up, and that's going to make that neutral really powerful still. Now, we do have a gap fill down here on the daily, and again, we do not have demand. I want to keep these targets to the downside. And remember, even though this is a neutral strategy, anything that's underneath is now support. So if price, let's say, breaks to the upside, all of these become support. All right, just like that. So in this environment, with all of these banners being green, you have to ask yourself, is it worth the risk to reward if you're looking for a short setup? Now, it can be, I think, if you're looking at buying further out, and doing like debit spreads or a little bit out of the money, but the overall trend is green. And so therefore, I want to be following the trend. What I don't like is that over here, it's completely different. I mean, look at this. To me, this is a bit odd. The Qs are off. The monthly is neutral. The weekly was bearish, and the daily was bullish last week. So we have a really big mix, and we know that the Qs like to lead. So I think what you're going to see on the openings is kind of like the same thing we've been seeing for the last 2 weeks. Is that the Qs tend to pull back. They got to find some sort of lower time frame demand or buyers, and then things start to catch up. I personally like the SPY over the Qs, but I also know that like a good good siblings, they like to do things together. So just be a little bit careful here. Know that this is not my favorite setup on the QQQ side, but over here it looks great. Just follow the trend. All right, no sentiment, just follow price. Price is action, or price is king, so we want to stick to that. I'm not going to change these levels, but if I were going to, I just kind of want to go over those with you. I would keep in mind where your trendy edges are. So right here, if for some reason we open underneath this yellow line, which is around 563.17, it'll be resistance till proven otherwise, which means that you have a 562 here and a 563.17. This area would almost be like a red zone, if you will. Just add those together, and let's say that price is down here. If it were to come up, we would expect this to be resistance until proven otherwise, okay? Now down here, we have our lower trendy edge, and this one comes in at 556.11, and this is 555.55. So you guessed it. Basically, you just combine the two lines on both sides. This would be like a red zone, and this would be a green zone right here. You just add those two lines. These will be areas where I'd expect buyers to show up, and this is where I'd expect resistance. If we indeed open up over these two levels, let these guide you as support for a more short-term support. Okay, your long-term support going into the SPY this week is going to be your weekly 9 EMA that I showed you and this daily cloud. All right. And again, this is just a 9 EMA. So for some reason you don't have the cloud, just throw a 9 EMA on your charts. Okay. Let's keep this. Let's keep these levels. I still like these a lot, especially if we pull back. And then over here on the Qs, let's talk about this. So do I want to keep this as neutral? I think I do. I mean, the overall trend is just a smorgasbord, if you will, of just crap. Yellow, red, and green. Who knows what's going to come? Let's look at again, the common things that we do see: lower highs, okay, and lower lows, and now we have a higher low. So we just have a sideways trend and an up move. So again, this is an up move, sideways, not as pretty as this one, okay? Let's look at it on the daily. Yeah, not as pretty. But I mean, it did round out. I like a couple things I do like is that we hit that level to the downside. It worked really well. And we rounded out. So this looks like a rounding bottom. Okay. We're going to put this in here. Take out that support. Let's move neutral over here. Same thing here. Hope you guys are having a good week. And right, today we're having a pool party, inviting a ton of people over. Gonna make it traditional. Have some hot dogs and hamburgers and some ruffles, potato salad. It's supposed to be a really beautiful day here. Looks gorgeous out right now. So very, very happy to do that. Once I get off the mic here, I'll be the cook, right? I'll be serving it up. So, anyways, nice rounding bottom, neutral. When I look up and to the left, I don't see a whole lot that's going to stop me in my tracks. I'm going to take this off because this was a level we used last week. Couple things I want to point out. Trendy edge is right here at the top. Trendy edge is pretty close to this bottom. Same thing, guys. You could just kind of draw with a marker here. This would be your resistance. Okay, this down here would be your support coming in at those two levels. So again, major short-term levels, 468, and up here would be 478.66. Once we get up and over that, then look for targets to be hit again. I'm trying to think if I'd want to shorten the targets from 481 to 486. At this point, I'm going to use, actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to move this one and I'm going to come down here to this trendy edge, last week's trendy edge, and I'm going to put that there. And next thing I'm going to do here on the neutral is I'm going to move this up a tad because it's so damn close, and I'm going to cover that trendy edge. And then on this bottom target, I'm going to move this to this trendy edge. So it's going to look like that. And actually, while I'm sitting here, why wouldn't we do that over here? Let's go ahead and do that there. So on the SPY, I'm moving up. Okay. And yeah, I think that's going to cover it. Yeah. And I'll leave this one here. All right, so that looks good there. So do we want to move this 481? That would be the question. Let's go here. I'm going to go from this pivot to here. I don't I don't think so. Let's leave it there since it's in line with the 76.4. I think that's great. So these are going to be the targets. We're going to keep the bottom. And this is going to be a really quick one again. I think usually these take me a good 30, 45 minutes. I might have talked that long, but this is definitely a little bit more simpler. Before we move on, let me just go over it one more time. Demand zones that have not been tested, gap fill that has not been tested, sideways action, potentially a breakout. If you were to draw a line over the top, over the highs, we want to see a base above here. I want to see a check back. I want to see that hold, and then I want to see this right there. Okay, that's going to make me feel like these levels are really strong. And then over here, we have a rounding bottom so far. We have not taken out pivots. When I say taken out pivots, well, all you do is look up and to the left and you want to see new highs over these two major spots here. So basically, you need to get over the neutral. We need to hold that on the day, and then I think we move up here towards 484. All right. I do see resistance around 481 to 484. And then, of course, we have the supply zone that's still sitting here on the Qs that we have not tested. We're very close to making all-time highs over here on the SPY. These are zones that Qs have not come back to test. These are things that you just want to keep in the back of your head, just in case things surprise you, roll over, and then we start headed down. Okay? So that's what I got for this week's neutral strategy, guys. Don't forget to give this a like. I really appreciate you. And again, please put how you did last week on the neutral strategy. I really love to hear about it. Thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.